Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. In today's episode, I have some very cozy fall DIYs to share with you. They are perfect to bring that nice rustic elegance touch of fall into your decor. I really hope that you like them. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing. If you do like any of today's projects, remember to hit that thumbs up. But let's get right into the DIYs. For this DIY, there's a couple of different ways that you can make this. So you can make it with this little pumpkin that you see there. If you don't have a pumpkin, I have this little sheet from Dollar Tree to use. And then, of course, the back is just a wood canvas that I bought at Walmart. $6 or $7, I believe, was what it was. I'm just going to take some scrapbook paper, and I loved this color of plaid. I wanted a plaid for sure in the background. So I just had to, since it didn't fit quite, I kind of had to match it up as best I could. So you're just going to take the back out of this little wood canvas, and then I just measure my paper down to make sure that it fit. And then here I am just putting some good old school glue, the little school glue stick, I should say, onto the backing of my little wood canvas. And then I will just use my Mod Podge roller to make sure that this adheres extremely well to that. And this will become the back of our canvas there. So you can see how that looks there. I guess this is kind of like a reverse canvas. So what I'm going to do is take this little sign from Dollar Tree and remove the center stuff. And then I just cut some scrapbook paper down to size to fit inside of it. Just got some coordinating paper to fit. And you can see that you could use one of those little pumpkins from Hobby Lobby or something. Anything you have would be fine. But what I'm going to do is trace this on the back of this little, this is like a tile, like a plastic tile from Dollar Tree. Kind of looks like that like faux tin. And so I'm just going to cut my shape of the pumpkin out. This stuff is like very thin plastic. It cuts extremely easy. And then I cover it with some plaster chalk paint. And then I go in with my metallic silver and I go over all of the raised areas. This is just going to make this look like distressed tin. So here's just an up-close look at what this looks like once you've kind of distressed it and added that little silver bit on there. So I'm just making a little mark on my canvas there of where to glue my second sign onto. The plaid lines really help because you have kind of like straight lines to go off of. So I'm just putting some hot glue on the back of this and then measuring that up there. I just love how these two papers look together. I think they are so cute. This is just the original riser that came on that sign, so I glue that down and then I'm just going to glue the pumpkin. I will warn you that this is plastic, so it will start to melt the pumpkin if you push too hard. So maybe super glue might work a little bit better, or if you use hot glue, just don't push very firmly on it. And then I take a jumbo popsicle stick here, or craft stick, and cut it to the same size as the pumpkin. And then I just weather it up with some antiquing wax here. So I just use a baby wipe to wipe that on. And then I'm doing a water slide decal on here. These are so amazing. I recently discovered these. I'll leave some more information about them in my description box if you'd like to know. But it says, "Meet me at the pumpkin patch." I thought that was so cute. So I just made another little riser out of a part of an old craft stick or paint stick and glued that on. And then I will use that to glue my cute little sign onto the front of the pumpkin. This particular DIY completely blew all of my expectations out of the water. I kind of had a vision for it, and as it came together, I loved it more and more. You'll have to let me know what you guys think of this one. Personally, I think it turned out so classy, and I absolutely love it. I got these at Hobby Lobby. I got this cute little white pumpkin. They had lots of different colors, and this is in the bridal section, over kind of by the bridal section. They have these little succulent bouquets and then little sprigs over there. So I just waited until those were 50% off to do this. So I'm just going to remove the stem on this pumpkin. They are styrofoam under whatever painted surface this is on them. So I just removed the stem, and now I'm just unwrapping this little succulent bouquet, and I'm just going to unwind it and get all of the little sprigs separate. So it's kind of nice because when you get it 50% off for $6, you get all, like, it's all together. You don't have to buy a bunch of little sets of different succulents. It comes all together. It's all matched, I guess is what I'm saying. So I did take my scissors and kind of pop off a little bit of that coating that's on the pumpkin to get down to expose the styrofoam. And then I literally just kind of started playing around, sticking in different succulents. If I needed to trim them down, I used my wire cutters to trim them down. And then I'm just going to keep placing them in and keep going around. Now, when I do get to the little long fern-like leaves like this here that I have, I realized they were very long for what I wanted to do. So I do trim off a couple inches off of the end, and then those little leaves just pull right off. And so you can kind of see, I'm like, that's really long. So you'll see what I'm talking about here. I just trim those with my wire cutters, and those leaves just pull right off to give you another little stem to stick down into your styrofoam. I am not at all like trained in this area at all. I just kind of go for what feels good and what looks right. And so there's really no right or wrong way. That's why I like the simplicity of picking up the little bouquet, is because they're already kind of matched together. So I'll just let you watch kind of how this goes, and hopefully that will help inspire you. So as you can see, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my eucalyptus leaves here. So to fix that, I just put a little hot glue on one of the leaves to attach it. That way it just kind of fills in that negative space that I did not want there. And I did pick up a couple little extra sprigs of the succulents I showed at the beginning of the video in the wedding section to kind of make this a little bit fuller, so you can see how that looks. I just stick the stem back in there. That would be totally optional, but I absolutely love how this turned out. I think it looks so chic and so cute. This is just one of those Dollar Tree pumpkins that has that word, it was metal on it that said thankful, and I'd taken that off to use on another project. So this is just what is left behind. So I just removed that little hanging tag off of the back and the little bow on the front. Dollar Tree has a ton of different styles of pumpkins like this though, and so I feel like they're a really great value for doing different crafts with. So definitely grab a couple just to have in your stash, because I find myself using them all the time. So I'm just giving this a couple coats of just some pumpkin color chalk paint, and then I'm a fan of having the green stem on the orange pumpkins, so I'm also just going to take some of my little green chalk paint and color that stem so that way it has the contrast and the colors I like. Now, I did find this frame at Hobby Lobby in their clearance section. I love looking through their clearance section for different pictures that you maybe would not ordinarily hang in your house, but to use for backgrounds or bases. You can also use a canvas if you have, or even another Dollar Tree sign would work. I liked this one because I felt like the pumpkin covered up that design, and I'm not going to have to do any work to the background of it. And I do want some ridges on my pumpkin here. So this is just using some antiquing wax is all, and just a brush here that I'm just kind of going with the curvature of the pumpkin to kind of make those little ridges. And I just wanted a little definition in there so it's not just such a stark, plain, like flat pumpkin. Hopefully that you can see what I'm doing here. And then I do kind of dry brush over the whole pumpkin with the antiquing wax to kind of give it a little bit of an aged look. And then I do right here, I'm going over with some orange after that antique wax has dried to kind of tone it down a little bit so it's not quite so like in your face with the ridges, so it kind of tones it down a little bit. Now you can see how this pumpkin covers the design on my sign. I felt like that little chain kind of looks like the pumpkin's hanging there. I was fine with that. I actually quite enjoyed and liked how this looks. So again, if it's something that you would want to do something with the back of your painting or picture, whatever you end up using, definitely do that so it matches your decor and your taste. And I'm just using some tumbling tower blocks to kind of pop it out a little bit. I'm a fan of having a little bit of a three-dimensional look. Now this is just some raffia here that I have. You can pick this up at Dollar Tree or Walmart, any craft store. And I kind of split it apart so it was some little thin strands. And then I just used some hot glue to glue that on there. And then this is just a thicker piece of jute twine. And I'm just layering some different things to hang off of the pumpkin to add some texture and everything. I like the look of the buffalo check ribbon on there. I feel like bringing a little bit of black into it does kind of make it a little more relevant for October and Halloween. It's not so in your face Halloween. It's something that can be left out all through the fall season, but I do kind of like that. So that's why I'm adding a little bit of black on here. Now these are just some Dollar Tree flowers that I have, and I just cut them off in individual stems so I can glue them onto the pumpkin here. We're just going to decorate the top of this pumpkin with all different florals and bows and everything and kind of jazz it up a little bit here. So I'm just using some hot glue to glue each of those strands on. I'll tuck some of them behind the ribbon, some of them on top of the ribbon, because we're going to put a bigger bow on this. So it really doesn't matter too much right now what it looks like in that center. And then I've had those cute little, I'm not really even sure what the different flowers are called, you guys, but I just picked what looked good. I get asked a lot how I pick the picks that I use in my florals, and honestly, I just pick what looks good to me. So I like to look for different types of textures and different colors of leaves, and then I just kind of mix and match as I do my projects. So this is just a little bit of like ticking ribbon, I think is what this is called, from Hobby Lobby, and then this plaid here, and it's more of like a velvety plaid. I thought those textures looked really cute, and it brings a little bit of that black in, but I wanted a little bit more orange to show through, a little different tone of orange. So this ribbon is from Dollar Tree, and I just made a giant bow, and I just tied shoestring bows on these, and then I glue this one on the base, and I just stack these ribbons just by gluing one on top of the other here. Pretty simple. I think it turns out really cute. I love all of those different patterns and the textures together. And now I can kind of see that the bow's there where I want to add a little bit more of the leaves and different things like that. So I just tuck different things in. These little, I love the color that's on those leaves right there that are the kind of cream color and tan. And this is just some burlap, or not, it's not burlap, it's twine with wire in it. And I just wrap it around my paintbrush and glue that in for some little corkscrew look to the pumpkin, like the little pumpkin vines or tendrils. And then I have some different like pine cones. These are all just from Dollar Tree picks. Every single one of these, I took all of these off of. And then I'm gluing some Spanish moss to kind of cover up that area on top of the bow, where you can see where it's layered together. Kind of adds a little different texture and a little bit more softness there, and I do that on the bottom as well. And you guys, this is one of my most favorite fall projects I have ever made. I absolutely love this. I think it is beautiful. It is something that is totally customizable to your taste and the colors in your home. I would love to know what you guys think of this one. As I was searching for French country ideas, I saw a lot of terracotta pots that kind of had like a very aged look or like a plaster finish to them. So I thought I would try that with this pot that I have, and you can use any type of terracotta pot that you might have. I'm just putting some baking soda in this little dish, and I'm just adding some chalk paint to it. You probably could use like spackle really easy to do this same texture, maybe water it down a little bit because I felt like it was almost the same type of consistency, texture as I was mixing this. And mix it really good before you add more paint, because I've had seen a lot of people do this that say that you'll keep adding paint thinking it's dry and then you end up with it too liquidy. So just kind of mix it really good before you decide to add more paint, because I thought I was going to have to add so much more, and I ended up not. Now I'm just going to brush this on to the pot here. And this is what I decided to do first, was kind of brush it on like this. But as you'll see in a minute, I found another method that works a little bit better. But I mean, this works fine too, and you can do it as heavy or as light as you want. I end up taking a stencil brush from Dollar Tree, and I'll dip it in my baking soda mixture there, and then I will just kind of push up and down. And I'm doing it pretty heavily because I want that heavy texture to it. And then I just want some of the terracotta to show, and I could have left more. It just kind of is a matter of personal preference. This was the first time I tried this particular technique, and so like I said, I think I got a little heavy, but I do like how it turns out, and it was kind of fun to do too. So now I just have a couple of pumpkins. I used this pumpkin in a lot of my displays last year. And then I bought this one at Hobby Lobby. I think Dollar Tree has them too. It ended up being like $1. And then I'm just going to make a little topiary out of these. So I'm just taking some styrofoam here, and I'm just using my putty knife to cut off the edges. And then I will just kind of squish or push that styrofoam down into my little terracotta pot here. This particular pumpkin did come from Hobby Lobby. I have seen them there this year. Like I said, I used it in a few displays last year, and I thought it would be perfect for this, but I loved the greenery that it had. So if you're using one that you have on hand, or you're using one from Dollar Tree, you might want to add some greenery around the bottom, because that really does soften it. So I stick it in that styrofoam, and then I'm just using a wooden dowel, and I'm just using that to get the pumpkins through. Now this particular one I turned upside down to kind of push it through first, because I just wanted to have control of where the hole was going, and it has like that around the styrofoam of the pumpkin is like, I don't even know what it is, like a film or something. So I just wanted to puncture that with some control. So that's why I did it that way. So now I just want to go in between each of these layers of the pumpkin and add some embellishing. So along the bottom, I'm just using some Spanish moss, and I'm just sparingly putting this in. So I'll just kind of look where it seems a little bit bare. I'll add a little glue, and then I just kind of will push that moss in. And then I have these little picks of hydrangeas, and I thought this golden color looked so beautiful. I kind of love the muted tones that this ends up having. So you could totally go with what your personality is on this and do it as colorful as you want, as muted as you want. You wouldn't even have to use the flowers. You could just do greenery. I thought, like, if you like that look of like the feathers that you see in some of the fall arrangements, that would look really cute kind of between the layers. The possibilities are endless, and this is the fun part of creating, is getting to do what matches your taste and your style. So I'm starting this next layer, putting the Spanish moss all the way around, because I wanted that to kind of come out between the different layers. And then I take some boxwood. This is from Walmart, the boxwood pick, and it's $1.97 for a pick, and it's an amazing deal because you can do so many different projects with each one. It comes with a bunch on one pick. So I'll just pull off like 6 or 7 of the little teeny pieces of the pick, little sprigs, I guess we'll call them. And I just glue those around, and then intermittently just kind of put in some of those hydrangeas. And I'm just using hot glue between all of the different layers here. And then as I get around, I'll push that top layer of the pumpkin down. I can put a little extra glue there, but there was a lot of glue there to kind of hold it. So moving on to this last layer here, again, you can just see I put the Spanish moss on top. I'm just using these little silicone spatulas so I don't burn my fingers, because if you've worked with Spanish moss and hot glue before, you know it seeps through very easily. And I'll just place that top pumpkin there to kind of see how much I want to do or how it looks. And then you can see on this layer, I'm just gluing these little sprigs across like this, and just kind of doing, instead of doing a number 4 around the pumpkin, I just do a number 3. And I do the same thing with those hydrangeas. And then this one, I do put a little bit of glue there to hold that top pumpkin down, and then I just push that down and hold it. Now I did go back and add some boxwood to the bottom layer so it looked cohesive on all of the different layers, and then just kind of spun it around to make sure that everything looked how I wanted it. If I needed to trim any of the Spanish moss or anything like that. But I'm loving this. I think this turns out absolutely beautiful. Some of the ones I saw online that were close to this size were upwards of $80, and some of this was just from pumpkins I had on hand. But I just think this is beautiful, and I love how this turns out. This is a giant pumpkin sign that I found at Five Below for $3, and I thought it would be perfect to make over. And I'm just using my heat tool to remove some of the stickers on the back, and then I do just tape back that little hanging tag because I didn't want to get any paint on it because I wanted to leave that. And then I'm just going to have this match my decor. It's darling the way that it was, so it would be fine, you know, if you found something like this just to use it, but of course we're going to DIY it and make it match my decor. So I'm just putting some Pumpkin by Waverly chalk paint on here. It takes about 3 coats to cover all of those letters. And then I have this Thankful. This came from Hobby Lobby, and they had a bunch of these last time I was there. They said blessed, thankful, and they had another grateful, I think was what the other one said. But I'm just taking some antiquing wax with a baby wipe, and I'm just going to wipe this over all of the surface of this to give it a nice look of the stained wood. I thought that would be a good contrast. It would be really cute to even just paint it in white or something, or just stain it a natural color to have against that orange on the pumpkin. But I really did kind of like this. I love antique wax. You guys know I use it all the time. Now I'm just taking a little bit of the moss color from Waverly, and I'm just going to kind of paint in this stem. It doesn't stick out a whole bunch, but you do see a little bit of it when I'm done with the project, and so it's kind of nice to have it look kind of authentic. And then I'm just taking a little antique wax on a little teeny angled brush, and I'm just doing a couple of the ridges for the pumpkin here. I'm just eyeballing it. I'm just kind of like hoping as I do this that it turns out okay. And it does, I think, turn out okay. But you just kind of do a couple kind of curved into each direction. You can kind of see curved into the middle of the pumpkin there. And then I do take a baby wipe after I do this to kind of mellow these down because they're really dark. And so I'm just wiping those off kind of in the same curved motion. And then I do end up going over them a little bit with some more orange paint just to tone them down a little bit so they're kind of very mellow. It looks like before I do that here, this is where I take a little bit of the leftover antiquing wax and just go around the edge. This just kind of helps kind of pop the edge of the pumpkin out, and it gives it a little bit of definition and helps make it kind of look cohesive. So here's where I'm putting that orange just lightly over that antiquing wax. It just kind of helps to blend it in and kind of mellow it down. You can kind of see what that looks like here. Now I just really quickly put hot glue on all my letters. I don't want it to dry before, as I start and get to the end of the letters. I want it to kind of all stick really well. I kind of got a little excess there, so I just kind of peeled that off. Now I'm using my heat tool to get rid of any of those little spider webby things that come from hot glue when like the little strings. That's a perfect hack to kind of get rid of those. It's just go over it with your heat tool. Now at this part, I decided I wanted to take a little bit of the white chalk paint and just kind of distress the edges here a little bit, kind of give it, I wanted it to pop a little bit more on here, this is when I was thinking, I guess if I had done it white, might have looked really cute also. But I mean, I do like how this looks, but it brightens it up just a little bit and adds a little bit of a more barnwood look to it. So this would be completely optional, but I do really like how this turns out. So you could just leave it like this with the thankful on there, but I wanted to add some embellishment on here because I just love to kind of soften things up with florals and bows and different things. And so I just have this pick that's left over. This was actually from my stash last year, but I feel like I've had some similar ones this year from Hobby Lobby. So anywhere, you could even use ones from Dollar Tree. And I had this little bit of cream hydrangea here that I thought looked really cute with it as well. So I'm just gluing those off to the side. And now I'm just taking some ribbon. This is just the burlap ribbon that I use from Hobby Lobby. And then this is some Dollar Tree ribbon also. And I just loop it around about 7 times. And then I do use a zip tie in the middle of it here. I forget to show you that. And I just zip tie the middle of it. And then I just pull all of the loops out and just kind of fluff this up. I just put a bunch of hot glue down on my pumpkin and then just set this bow down and then just fluffed it up as much as I wanted it to. And then I'm just gluing kind of the tail here. You can kind of see. Now, if you decide this is way too big a bow, at first I was like, ugh, this is kind of big. I end up really liking how it is, but I mean, you can definitely make smaller loops for your bows. But I just take off my little tag on the back there so that way the hanging tag is there. And look at how cute this looks. I love to dress my pantry door for different holidays, and that is exactly where this is going to go. And I think it turns out beautiful. And it's something that will last not only through fall, but through Thanksgiving as well. Earlier this year, I purchased this sugar mold off of Amazon. It was like $15 or something like that, and you can see how I've decorated for other seasons. I've done several videos on it. I'll put a link down in the description box for the mold and for the different videos. But I had a few requests to make sure that I showed what I was doing for fall, so here you go. The little pumpkin topiaries came from Walmart. They were like $1.14. And then I just had a couple other picks that I picked up at Hobby Lobby, but you could easily use ones from Dollar Tree, ones from Walmart, whatever your style and your taste like. I'm just letting you know where I got mine. And then I did pull the pumpkins off of them. I just wanted 3 little pumpkins and then the pumpkin topiaries and then a lot of foliage. So I'm just pulling up, you can see in each of the little cups of the sugar mold, I have some Spanish moss and then some reindeer moss. And I did just stick some skewers in the bottom of these pumpkins so they would go in easily. I like to take this sugar mold and decorate it temporarily so that way I can change it out from season to season. If you've ever bought these and had candles in them and you're like, what do I do with this now that the candles are burnt out and all the wax is gone? This is a perfect thing to do with these. So I stuck each of those pumpkins in, and you can kind of see that the middle one is a little bit different than the ones on the sides. And then I am taking these picks and I'm kind of bending them so they'll fit down in, because who knows if I'll do this next year for fall or if I'll use these picks for something else. So I didn't want to trim too much or anything off of them. And so you can kind of see how I loop that over, and I just tuck that down in. And this is pretty sturdy. There's quite a bit of the Spanish moss tucked in each of those little holes there. So that way there is some stability when I stick these in, so I don't need any glue or anything. Now this one I had to use my pliers to wrap that thing around because it had a very stiff wire on the end of it. And I'm just going to stick these cute little pumpkin topiaries. I love these. I have IKEA plants all over my house. If you guys know what I'm talking about, those little like lamb's ear IKEA plants. I'll buy these topiaries and just stick one in each of those. I just think it's such a fun way to add a little bit of fall into your house. I think those are so cute. So now you can easily just leave it like this and be done. But I like to add a little bit extra to things. You guys know this. So I have this little sign that I got at Hobby Lobby, and then I have this ticking ribbon. I think it might have come from JoAnns. I can't remember. It might have been Hobby Lobby actually. Anyway, I'm just putting this ribbon around, which of course both of these would be optional. You could do one without the other very easily. And what I do is I just measure the ribbon, and then I'll use the smallest amount of hot glue to glue it onto the back of the mold and then onto itself. So that way I can easily peel that off when the next season comes. I'm very excited to decorate this for Christmas, so you'll have to watch and see how I do that. And then I just glue a Jenga block onto the front of the ribbon because I want that sign to pop out a little bit, and I want to add as little glue to the sugar mold itself. And you can kind of see I do that, and then I just kind of fluff it up and just make sure everything is placed exactly where I want it to be. But look at how adorable this looks. Oh my gosh, I love this. Now you could add hot glue into the mold on this if this is something you were wanting to sell and make it more permanent, or add some styrofoam down in there. But I love the fact that I can change this out and do different seasons and things. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, and if you want me to keep showing you different seasons how I decorate this. Have you seen these pumpkins at Dollar Tree? They're so cute, and they have the little metal letters on them, but you can see when you take them off, they've kind of put a little bit of shadowing on there. So I don't want that because I'm going to change the words that I want on my pumpkin. So I'm just painting it with some pumpkin chalk paint, and then I'm going to put a little bit of definition in here with my antiquing wax. You can see I just kind of put a little bit on the edge of my sponge brush and kind of just copy that curvature. And then I'm going around the edge of the pumpkin here, and then to dull that down a little bit so it's not so harsh, I do go back over it with a little bit of the pumpkin chalk paint. And then I'm just painting my stem in the moss color with chalk paint here. What I'm doing with this project is I'm going to use it in a wreath. So I am using some of this 6-foot garland and then some picks that I found at Hobby Lobby. Now, my pumpkin is going to sit off to the side on my wreath form that I got from Dollar Tree there. And so my garland only needs to go around like 3/4 of the form, if that makes sense. So I'll kind of show you here that I set it to the point where my pumpkin would stop. And this is a 6-foot garland, like I said, and so it will double up. So as it gets around to the next pot, I will take the other half of it and curve it back around. And so this is what's going to give a very thick look to your wreath. Now, I was looking at wreaths at Hobby Lobby the other day, and like wreaths that were this full were upwards of like $150. Now, granted, they have their 40% off on fall, but still, that's a lot of money. I don't want to spend that much on a wreath that I'm going to use for a month, maybe 2 months. So I'm just zip tying this on. I do the top portion of the garland all the way around. I zip tie it where there's a little break in the wreath form that I can go around. And then I do that second layer, the same thing. Just go around zip tying it so it's not going everywhere. I got these zip ties at Dollar Tree. So you get, and they're in the automotive section. So if you're looking for zip ties, there's a little package that comes with black and red ones. So I just use all the black ones. So you can see how my pumpkin will fit in there. I'm just checking to make sure how good that looks. And then what I do is before I zip tie any of these in, I stick them all in and make sure that they're placed where I want them to be and the spacing's all correct. So I have 6 picks that have like berries or pumpkins on them, so like 3 of each. And then I believe I have 3 or 4 of the hydrangeas, and I just kind of go in between and just make a little pattern. Now, these little hydrangeas, I just wrap that wire stem around to hook those in because those are not going anywhere. And I did not show me zip tying the other things in because my head was in the way completely as I was filming. So I thought you'd enjoy looking at the wreath, not my head. But I just zip tied all of those into wherever there was a wire next to them, the little picks. And then you can see I'm just bending the pick part here in or wrapping it around a wire if I can to give it some extra stability. Look at how full this looks. I think this is so pretty. And I just go back in and cut all the backs off of the zip ties here. And now on my cutting machine, I did cut out Hello Pumpkin, and I do use a little bit of painter's tape if your mat loses some stickiness. Somebody told me a baby wipe might work too. So you could go ahead and put the words back on. That looks so cute if you don't have a cutting machine or you don't want to take the time to do this. I just really, since it's my front door wreath, I wanted it to say hello on it. So I thought Hello Pumpkin would be really cute to do. So I'm just going to weed this out, and I want it to kind of look galvanized because I did like the look of the galvanized words. So I kind of lightly tap over with a stencil brush with Silver Lining and Elephant were the two colors of chalk paint that I kind of go back and forth. And I just want to let you know that from my front door when I'm standing there in person, it totally looks galvanized. Like you would have to get right up next to it. It doesn't come across on camera as well as I had hoped. But I kind of, after I got all of this done right here, I was like, this is all going to stick to the transfer tape and it's going to get all over my pumpkin. Like I started to panic a little bit. It didn't. Like I did use a little bit of a Q-tip and a baby wipe to kind of go in and clean up the negative space there. So that way when I put my transfer tape down, it didn't pick all of that paint up. So I did that as best as I could and kind of thought, well, we'll hope for the best. It totally worked out just fine. One trick that I did with this is I placed my transfer tape on my table so I knew that it wasn't going anywhere, and then I just used my fingers down below to move my pumpkin around to center it. So if that makes sense, hopefully, but that's kind of a way to help get things centered. And I, again, just eyeballed it as best I could, and I just think, look at how good that looks. And like I say, on camera, it doesn't look so much like galvanized metal, but in person, guys, like it really does. Like it looks so good. So I do just go in here and I have a crocodile that I cut a couple of holes in the top and bottom to zip tie this on. You would not have to do that. You could easily hot glue this in. You could easily punch a hole in it with like a nail and a hammer or something to zip tie down at the bottom or something like that. There's a lot of different ways to get that affixed to it. And then I take just a couple little loose leaves to kind of cover those zip ties so that way you're not going to see them. It's not going to come off of there. And then you can kind of see up on the right hand side of the top of my pumpkin, it was a little bare. So I'm just going to come and glue. And I just honestly turned my wreath over and picked a couple of leaves from the back to do this with. So stinking cute. I love this wreath. Guys, this easily would have been over $100 at Hobby Lobby the way that their wreaths were priced. And I mean, I probably spent a little bit, probably less than 30 on it, and it's homemade. It's going to last me years and years. I love this. You can go over with decoupage on your pumpkin to seal it, but what do you think of this one? I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed these cozy fall DIYs. Are you guys ready for some cooler weather and for that fall season to arrive? If you are, leave one of the leaf emojis down in the comments. We'll see if we can make a great big pile of leaves with all of the emojis you guys leave. I know I'm ready for some cooler temperatures. Thank you so much for joining me today, you guys. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.